we go. We got a transmission happening over here. So welcome everyone once again to the Quantum Cafe and the Interstellar Lounge with your host here, the Cosmic Messenger, Derek Pennett, aka the Lightbody Technician, Reiki Master Teacher, and Metaphysical Activator. So I have a very special guest today, as you've noticed. So with me today from Sacred Alchemy Astrology is a good friend of mine, Haridev Khalsa. Pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
It's a pleasure.
Got some awesome topics to share with you today. We got two in particular. But just to let anybody know, if you're new to the video and this is the first time you've been to my channel, this is a multidimensional hub, a quantum zone where we can talk about everything wild. So if you're having light body stuff go on, or you're talking to your spirit guides, or you're seeing things through the astral planes, or maybe you even have like deep dream space where you're doing lucid dreaming and communicating with other people, if you can bring it up and any wild stuff, this is the zone that we'll talk about it. And it's a freedom zone where we can just go off about all the multidimensional topics, from fifth dimensional ascension, like I said, to your Merkaba spin. Okay, so we're here for you. At the end of the video, I'll put some links down so that everybody has the awesome information to check out either of our services. So very briefly, if we could get a little introduction from you, I'll let people know really quickly. So Sacred Alchemy Astrology, right? So tell us a quick little bit about yourself, how long you've been doing this for, and then we'll jump into the two subjects and I'll let them know what we're talking about today.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. It's exciting.
This is really an honor, and I have been, I guess, involved with astrology since I was in my early 20s. And it's something that spoke to me right away, but I also met people in the world that really were very, educated with astrology and taught me so much. And so it was really kind of like a destiny. But I studied it for many, many years, probably 25, before again, destiny created this circumstance where it was like I was guided to really give it a go to, start an astrology business and to, read charts professionally. And it happened just so beautifully and with so much support from a lot of special people. So I've just been blessed, and the impact that I feel that astrology has is so profound. So it's such a deep honor to connect with people in this way.
Awesome. Just to throw out a couple things, because I know you very well. You've been doing this since your early 20s. Yeah. And then you worked in a metaphysical bookstore for 13 years with two professional astrologers. Yeah. They had gone to a lot of the workshops and stuff. You've read tons of books. And it was one of those things where when you just picked up on it, it was a natural language to you, and you were able to decode the wildest things in the stars and then make it very accessible to day-to-day public, right?
It's true. Tons
of readings you've done, and you have your webpage and everything too.
Exactly. Now so many readings. But I will say one thing about this, that for at least 20 years, I kept astrology kind of at a distance because I was reluctant to let astrology take over everything for me, like where it was just like my only lens to look at the world through, because I did witness this in other people that were really into astrology. And so I'd get into it and then I'd kind of come out of it and then go back into it and come out of it. And then when I decided to start my business, I knew that I had to go all in and that was going to be it. And I did it. Like it was like an energetic surrendering into the ancient kind of, whatever art and science astrology is. And then I was given access to so much more kind of like information about the symbols themselves. So it took it to a whole different level where now I wasn't at school just through books anymore. I was going to school in kind of like this galactic realm where I just had access to all this amazing information, but I needed to surrender to astrology to receive that blessing.
Which is good too, because when somebody like falls in love with music or has like something that's their passion, you just did it because it was your passion. It was encoded into everything that you did, had an astrology layer to it, a filter, right? And just so people know, the symbols, you're talking about the ones that are on the astrology birth chart, right? Those are like transmitting you
exactly
new information.
Those ancient symbols hold a lot of energetic information that just by writing them and looking at them, you are actually receiving a lot of just powerful info, but on a completely different level.
Oh, you were meant to be this all the way through, and it worked out in the perfect time-space sequence, right?
Yeah,
which is
did.
awesome. So
perfect.
for the last couple of years, 2-3 years, you've been really plugging, going for
doing
it.
my thing.
Like I said, sacredalchemyastrology.com,
Yeah.
and I'll put the link down at the end of the video. We'll have some awesomeness. So we've already started to touch base on the two topics for today.
Oh.
The first one that we're going to do, so we're doing two, and the first one is going to be on the importance of astrology in our lives on a day-to-day level, and just how magical it is. Bring up some stuff you don't normally hear about that. And then the second half of the video, we're going to go into the planetary energies. We'll just start with the 9 planets. We have a little bit of time. We'll do a couple extras and go through a quick run through of all of those planetary energies and how they influence us in our lives. Now, the importance of astrology, I'd just like to start off from where we kind of left off, because we already started talking about it. When you talked about the symbols giving you those transmissions, they hold that like no different than Reiki symbols and other ones that are, encoded to have metaphysical information.
Yeah.
So that brings it out. So then when people see these symbols, like how many people know their astrology symbol, but they don't really know many other symbols in the metaphysical world? They're a Leo and they know they're Leo when they look at it, right?
Yeah.
They can see it. So if you want to talk more about some of those transmissions that come through the symbols and how astrology plays into our day-to-day life, and maybe talk a little bit too about how we choose our birth charts before we're born to help us access the portals of birth, and then how that lines up some of our destiny points. We could talk briefly about the nodes of the moon, whatever you'd like.
Sure.
Cool.
Okay, let's begin.
Wherever you'd like to go from there. The floor is yours.
There's something that came up just when you're speaking about how the planets influence us. And I'm not saying that that is completely incorrect. However, I also have these other experiences where I understand that we are the solar system, and we are the galaxies. And so really all of these movements and all of these planets, they exist within oneself. Like even, I taught Kundalini Yoga for many years too, and learned a lot about mudras. And so each finger, it doesn't just represent a planetary energy. It actually is an electromagnetic current of that energy itself. And that's why it actually works when you, like Gaian Mudra is Jupiter and the thumb, which is the ego. So you bring Jupiter and the thumb together, and this is very expansive. So as we'll get in later when we talk more about the planets, but just to say that, all of this energy, it actually exists within us. So we're not really being influenced so much as we are at one with the movements themselves.
It's like a co-creation, doing them at the same time. Because if you think about how big the universe is, how wouldn't that have an influence on us?
Yeah.
It occupies grandiose amounts of space. We're not even talking the spirit realms.
Yeah.
But then simultaneously, we can call them in and use them on command, plus have the influence that the birth chart has already brought forth. But the thing is, if we are picking the birth chart before we're born, meaning we're already setting up those energies to take place. So they're influencing us, but we pick the influence.
Exactly.
But then there's also the collective happenings too, which are just fresh new futures in the moment. So in terms of the archetypes, mudras and all that stuff, and bringing in those energies, can you go a little bit deeper into not just what an archetype is, because we're acting out all of these, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, you go through the whole wheel, and we're acting those things out, and we're playing them. But it's a little bit more than us just being like, hey, I'm just going to choose to be this right now. It's deeper than that. We pick the chart to play those things out, but they're intertwining with all these other aspects on the chart, right? It's very multidimensional.
I call it blending. Like when I'm reading a chart, that's what you have to do as an astrologer. Even like a tarot reader, I can understand that too, because you're taking it within one card. There's a multitude of symbols that you then have to blend together. Mm-hmm. Or if you do a tarot reading, the cards blend in together. Yeah, they're in a relationship together. And it's the same thing in a chart. You have to understand how everything is relating. So it's not so pure, and it's not like, Mars and Taurus and that's just it. And it's not really, it is actually affected by every other planet that it touches.
Yeah.
If it's square the sun, then both of those planets take on a much different expression. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. And
then based too on each person's personality and what they bring to the table. But then that's
makes it so particular. Like, there's just no one kind of Leo. Mm-hmm. There's too many kinds you couldn't even imagine.
It's infinite. And that's what's neat too, is because you can bring up your own character and be like, but I'm so me in the moment. And yet you are, and you can totally create this fresh moment, but then it's in your chart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's wild so like
it's
that.
Yeah.
And you were talking about the cosmos out there with the cosmos within. Yeah. Macrocosm and the microcosm.
Exactly, or as above, so below, which is Thoth. And this is absolutely correct. It's like what is happening, above us is happening within us. It's all happening simultaneously. And then, and it goes to the very, micro level, from the very macro of, the entire, universe. Or if you can stretch your mind out to the vastness of everything, but then come into the very micro of, the tiniest little cell in your body.
Yeah.
And, so it's really quite profound. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're so deeply connected to the cosmos. It's not, astrology is something we're remembering. It's it's been around forever, and it's definitely guided and helped us along the way for many, millions of years. And then there was a strange relationship that was formed with astrology, using it only for particular reasons. And then it really got, slammed. And then now it's, since Dane Rudyard really transformed astrology in the early 1900s, bringing it into person-centered astrology, where now it's psychologically, rich. There's understanding that we are beings that are evolving. Mm-hmm. We're growing, and so therefore a chart is never static, or like a birth chart.
Yeah.
Not a transit chart, but an actual natal birth chart is not necessarily static. There's a range of expression.
Exactly. So then when people have that perspective right now, they're like, well, the earth is moving, but then the astrology signs up there, the stars, the constellations, they're fixed, and why do we keep seeing them all the time? And are we just repeating these same cycles, stuck on this one planet? Those cycles are never the same twice.
Yeah, never.
They're always changing and moving and animating and morphing and upgrading and evolving with our consciousness. Mm-hmm. It's like Earth and whatever planet you're on and what is going on around it, and it's also revolving around everything else. It's dual. It's both of them, right? Yeah. They're storehouses for these archetypes for whatever dimension you incarnate into. Mm-hmm. And then you have, as you've put it to me before, it's the blueprint is what your astrology chart is. And because of that movement, that's the stuff that I really love, is after you've got a birth chart read, and you do these too, you get a transit reading. Mm-hmm. And then you can see where these planets are in real time.
Yeah.
You have a wonderful book that's getting a little harder to find called Planets in Transit.
Yeah, Robert Hand.
You really like that one?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, he's very deep, he's very original, and he was part of that collective of people that really transformed astrology in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. It was a movement. It really was, and he was a big part of that.
Yeah. And who is Kai Pacha's teacher?
Oh, Jeffrey Wolf.
There's another person. I just want to make sure I put these sound bites out there so you can go research books check out some information. Maybe you'll find some video blogs, stuff if you're wanting to explore astrology further.
Because what I have always studied, what was introduced to me, but also was like intimately interesting to me, was evolutionary astrology as a branch of astrology. And Jeffrey Wolf Green was the, I guess, originator of that. It was all kind of channeled through him, and it's highly sophisticated and intelligent stuff.
Is this the one being that has that root comes from Pluto? Or,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, totally. Which makes sense, right?
Yeah, where Pluto is the soul, and then the nodes of the moon help you to understand your past lives, and then your evolutionary destiny.
Yeah. And I've said this before too, because there's all these different branches. Like Vedic astrology really goes down into like the science of who you are. It's almost like the human design from the old world.
Yeah,
and it has a lot of really good points. It goes into Ayurvedic medicines, and you can really like line up these exact days of like, oh, this is totally going to happen to you on this day.
Yeah.
But what I like about evolutionary astrology is it doesn't limit itself. It has the potential for the wisdoms and the transmissions to be endless flowing.
It's very expansive.
And it welcomes in the other, and it combines with the other ones and mixes it in. It's like the astrology for the age of Aquarius, right?
I could totally agree with that.
Okay. So something I wanted you to talk about too, because I'm curious to get more information about it. You pick your birth chart before you're born.
Okay, let's talk about this.
Okay. But I want to say one thing really quickly. So we're picking our birth chart when we're born. We have Earth in 3D and we have Tara. Okay? Tara is our 5D cousin, ascended Earth, where we're working towards to lift that vibration, right? When doing our ascension work. When Tara fell in consciousness due to the blowing up of its grid, its atmosphere, it got blown right up. It's still in damage as of today. All of the energies of Tara flew out into our solar system, which is originally known as Sol system, SOL. And then each of the planets holds the key codes to our ascension to be better human beings, to come full harmonic in with ourselves. Hence why astrology gives us all of this information about self-awareness and how to really progress. So each of those planets all have the energy of Tara, and when you combine them all together, you reach your next stage of evolution. And you reach that fifth dimensional blueprint, right? So speak about that in the portal, entering the womb, all that stuff. Well, thanks for going off. This is so much fun.
You're welcome.
It's pretty awesome.
It's so much fun for me too. So the birth chart, just to understand this, is a continuation of all that you have lived and accomplished in previous lifetimes. It's not some new thing that you're not familiar with. It is like an unfolding chapter, right? It's like the next chapter of your evolving experience of consciousness.
Yeah.
So there's this ability to understand how to create certain conditions within the human experience so that you can land into your the proper evolutionary container. You know, you have to be born into a family that either has the strengths or the deficiencies that allow you to then grow and deepen and, you know, process on levels that are like very specific for you.
Either as a soul group or through bloodlines, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. So then the birth chart itself is really an encodement of numbers. Okay, so there's the birth time. The exact time that the portal opens for you to enter into planet Earth is very specific. Okay, then we have the birth date. So this is another numerical code, which is like a key. Okay, like if you understand the construction of the universe, it is all mathematical. Like it's all about numbers, the whole thing. And so not
numerology.
The whole thing. Exactly.
Yeah, it's the numerology of the universe.
Exactly. Exactly. Numerology of the universe. So then there's the birth date. And then you have the location of the portal, which is the longitude and the latitude. So the city that you were born into. Okay? So this creates a very specific kind of vibration and brings you into a space that is really it's a blessing. It's an absolute blessing to be incarnated on this planet and in the specific portal that was chosen.
So you're accessing that frequency, and then your parents or the soul group or however, all that intermixes and creates that frequency range that you could resonate with for the next adventure.
To do the work that you need to do in order to move to the next level of your development as a soul.
Evolutionary astrology.
Being. Yeah, exactly.
Soul evolution.
It's always in motion. And I feel that, like, if we can understand that we are these natural beings and that nature is always changing and shifting and evolving, this is our nature as well. There's always this impulse to want to become something more, to develop oneself. And that is really what the birth chart shows, is like how you have developed yourself in your past, what gifts and talents you're bringing forth into this present lifetime, what challenges you're dealing with, and what things you just keep kind of like falling back into or onto as like a comfort or security measure. And then what is the uncomfortable destiny? Because that's generally what, when I talk about the future or this kind of like evolutionary impulse that the soul has designed for the next step, that is where people feel a little bit more resistant because they're so comfortable with their south node. And but however, how I explain it is there is no true fulfillment in life until you begin the process of embodying your north node or your evolutionary destiny.
Right. That's amazing stuff. And to go a little bit into some research material for you guys, The Nodes of the Moon, the easiest book and to honestly understand is The Secret Language of Destinies. We've seen The Secret Language of Birthday book. It's been out on the shelves for a very long time. You may have come across it. The Destiny one it is the nodes. It'll be explained at the beginning, but that's where it's lining up. That's how they calculated the dates. They took the north node and the south node, and you get your own section on that. You can read about it in your friends and family and have a better understanding of how you can relate to them too, where they're going and what their quest is, their unique one, right? And maybe some of your paths intertwine to the point where you feel like twin soul or, ooh, I've known you in another life before and we're picking up on some star karma from before, who knows? On different levels. So what you're saying is these mathematical equations are very...
they're very specific.
They're very specific. They're super complex.
As mathematics is. You know, math is specific. That's why you can't really get away with much with math. It just is what it is, And so that's why the birth chart, it does have a very specific frequency to it. It's a very specific portal that was designed just for your incarnation, for your birth, for your experience of life on planet Earth. And it's not just we take these things lightly because we're dealing with so much intensity all the time, is my theory. But truly, this is a very, profound experience to be here.
Yeah, and even if you can go online, there's a few free websites, Astrodience or something like that it's called, and you can get, or Astro something, and you can print up your birth chart. Let's just say you didn't even have the exact time, but you wanted to just get an idea of what one looks like. Go check it out and print it up online, and hold it up to the stars. The top half is what you would be seeing in the sky there, and the bottom half's on the other part of the hemisphere, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then you can get an idea of where that picture of where that stopped. Right when you were born, what was happening, right? Because that's your imprint. That was the word that really came to me today before we did the video. It's like a master blueprint imprint, right? Of your personality, this avatar complex that you're coming into. We don't need to get so attached to who we are in this one body. And I know there's a lot of talk right now. You're not who you are. You're way more out in the cosmos. My perspective and what I know, you're all of them combined. everything that's ever happened that you ever experienced in a body, in a non-body, in another universe, you mix it all together. Your astrology chart keeps you going from where you left off, and your next one will continue where you are. So if you come back and you decide that you're going to incarnate on the Lyra, let's say you've done some ascension work and you can reach back up there, because once you're up there it's a little easier to come down to the others. Going back up's a little more tricky. You're going to have astrology out there and its own systems and its own constellations, right? Yeah. Think about how big that chunk of the universe is. That chunk of the galaxy is all working together in unison, right? Because outside of those, the astrology signs that we use, there's other ones for other planets, and you bet those two are talking together, like our sun and the central sun, and then the galactic central sun, metagalactic core, and the cosmic sun. They all speak to each other, right? They're alive, living entities, right? So Earth is in communication with you, your birth chart, and also the astrology signs above. Just before we get into the other topic, is there any source material you would recommend to anybody to check out, or web pages or stuff that you like that can give them, you know, either weekly updates or some really good material to read? A starter book that would be really good.
Starter book. I mean, I'm into such deep books. I really am.
That's okay, but go into the deep. This is what this show is all about. Don't hold back.
Starter book for evolutionary astrology is Mark Jones, Healing the Soul. I'm sure that's what it's called, Healing the Soul, which is this very kind of, it's like a simplified version of what Jeffrey Wolf Green did with his first Pluto book. So it just like really breaks it down and makes it pretty digestible. And if you're willing and ready to go into more deeper material, then reading Jeffrey Wolf Green's material is pretty profound.
What about Stephen Forrest?
Yeah, Stephen Forrest too. The Inner Sky. That's an amazing starter book.
Right.
And then all of his, well, not all of them, but most of his books I have loved so much. Yeah, he does more special work, specialized. He is an evolutionary astrologer that really looks at the whole story behind your past lives and how to develop this story and how to put the pieces together.
Because remember, this is a living myth, right? We're acting out these living myths that become these archetypes that have these stories, that have legends. And even for some beings who don't want to grasp, or cannot grasp that myth is alive, even as the story that's been passed down through countless generations holds so much wisdom, especially when you're encoding it into the planetary energies, which we'll get to in a sec. I want to recommend Pam Youngins to go to the North Point Astrology, and she gives you a weekly update, and she makes it very easy to understand, but then throws in some nice delectable cosmic stuff. If you're a starseed, a luminary out there, and you're like, you want a little bit of advance, she's going to intermix the two together. And of course, Kai Pacha, and you can check out his weekly Paley reports as well too, which are really fascinating.
I really do.
Just to let everybody know too, the bottom half of your chart is your more inner world, like the inner sky, the personal planets, right? And then the outer top half is the more outer manifestations, vocations, careers, going out in the public, the collective as a whole, okay? So we're going to continue on with subject number 2. All right, as I was saying, we got a number 2 topic going in deeper today. This is awesome. This is extended video session. So we wanted to talk about the multidimensional energies of the planets. The energy they encapsulate, that they hold, the encodings that they share, that we co-create, that we evolve with. I'd love you to take a rundown through our solar system and let people know all about the stellar transmissions of each planet. The
first thing that I want to just say briefly is that there's a book that I read called New Mansions for New Men by Dane Rudyard, and he goes through the planets as though they are gongs, that they are like tones.
They are.
That's exactly the first thing that you need to understand about planets and planetary energy, is that it is a song, it is a frequency, and each one is very specific.
Just
Okay.
like tuning forks tuned to the
Exactly.
planets, you
That's
can buy
why,
those as well.
Exactly. That's why tuning forks are, and yeah, like tuning forks. Is there anything else attuned to planets? I guess there's gongs. There's
Yep.
planetary gongs. Yeah. Yeah. So that's really important to understand because it takes, I feel, the kind of understanding of what a planet is out of like a super third dimensional experience and into more like etheric or metaphysical energy. And that is like, so we're going to begin with the luminaries, okay?
Yeah.
The sun and the moon.
By the way, they're projecting the sound first, and then they manifest into matter through sound,
Good
light,
one.
and sacred geometry and frequencies.
Totally.
So we're receiving the energy, which is the sound vibrations, the frequencies, the resonation, all that stuff,
Which
right?
is then how it does
Vibration.
manifest exactly into, experiences.
Yes.
Okay, so the luminaries are really the two most important planets. The ascendant is the third most important point of a chart, but the sun and the moon represent very vital aspects of our psyche. So the sun itself is what we would call the hero's journey. And it is the light of the soul and of the heart. And what the sun does is it creates purpose. It gives us purpose. And that's something that I wanted to say just about the chart itself and like why come and get your chart read? Part of it from my perspective is to understand your unique purpose for this lifetime. Because a lot of us wonder, like, why are we here? Like, what do I have to offer, or what are my special and sacred gifts, or just understanding your direction, the meaningful sacred direction of the soul. So the sun really provides a lot of energy around that, and like I said, the hero's journey. There's this need to consciously make choices for your life, for self-development with the sun. If you feel lost in your life, you look to your sun to understand then how to bring meaning and purpose into your experience. The sun is very masculine in nature, and it is extremely illuminating and very radiant. It rules the sign of Leo. So it has this, kingly vibe, like ancient Egypt, like pharaohs and kings and, queens and, beings that were extremely golden and, very radiant. There's also this element of understanding that the sun is progressive. It's in motion. When we say, like, I'm a Virgo, that's not actually what it is. It's more, I'm becoming a Virgo. I'm becoming that with every conscious decision that I make. And that's the other part to understand about the sun, is that it is consciousness itself. So the moon, in relation to the sun, is what we would say to be more regressive.
Right.
It takes you backwards. It takes you back into where you've come from. That's why we use the nodes of the moon in evolutionary astrology, because it's emotional, for one thing.
And you go inside, it's very psychic, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and it's very deep, and there's a lot of memories stored in there from many, many lifetimes.
The sun, I got to throw in really quick, is like the solar management of all your departments, because it's pulling the whole solar system with it. So it's like the master.
It is the master. It really is. Nothing is functioning without the sun illuminating it. Like, it is the central core.
So the moon,
we got yourself.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, the moon is regressive. So it takes you into your childhood. It's about feelings and habitual responses and conditioning and, a family. It takes you to your roots, but even more than that, even deeper than the third dimensional roots. It's like your deep emotional inner world that only you really know about. It's very personal. There's an element of the inner child involved with this.
Is it also the mother aspect?
And the mother.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, I have found that both of these archetypes are really prominent within the moon, and I feel that part of the healing that we are working on and need to kind of devote ourselves to is the understanding of who our inner child is, and then the creation of an inner mother that is the kind of mother that you really always needed, because I think a lot of us felt that we didn't receive the emotional nurturance that we needed when we were children. So it's like that dynamic really exists within the moon, and the moon in your chart is really the mother's ancestral line. So it shows whatever is traveling through that ancestry and what you came to embody to heal or elevate that kind of dynamic through your life.
Think of it too as your feeling center as well too, from an intuitive standpoint. A little bit different than, say, an Aquarian intuition from your third eye, more in like the sacral chakra zones.
Like gut intuition.
Yeah, it's the water inside of you and just it flowing, and it just knows in the moment, and water carries consciousness, right? So that's tapped in there. Okay, so we've done those two. So we've done some luminaries. Well, might as well run through them from Mercury all the way to the back, right?
Okay, so
the sun rules Leo, and then
the moon rules Cancer.
Okay, and Mercury and Gemini.
And Virgo.
And Virgo, that's right. That's two
Mercury has dual rulership of Gemini and Virgo.
Hence my name, the Cosmic Messenger.
Yeah, exactly.
Placement of Mercury and some Gemini stuff in my chart. I came up with that one. So let's talk about the Cosmic Messenger. Not me, the planet Mercury. The boots with the wings, right? Well, little wings.
Exactly. And this is like, in Greek mythology, this was the little being that transported information. Yeah. So it was like, this like being with winged, boots that could go all over the place, almost like a little gossip on some level, that had just like so much information to share, and connecting as well. I think there's like a connecting energy, but in the chart it's a lot to do with communication and the development of the mind.
It's very mental,
and very like logical, rational mental, very third dimensionally mental in a lot of ways. It's the understanding of connection points, and it can be very scattered. Mercury has a lot of nervous energy. There's a lot of like anticipation around this planetary vibe.
And incoming data.
Yeah,
Immediate.
exactly.
What's in front of you right now? Tactile material world. I'm going to go interact with it. What can we do with it? What kind of info can we find?
That's exactly it. Yeah, interacting with your environment. Yeah, and all the things that you can learn along the way, and communicating with people, sharing ideas, sharing thoughts and understandings, and just exchanging ideas.
I always think of the postal service when I think of Mercury and Gemini, like Gemini being the postal worker, and the system that's created from those energies, right? Was Mercury putting them together, all those like all the envelopes and where they got to go and the places they got to end up and all the categories, and we're just going to like shove them down here and flip them over here and deliver them. That's so Mercury. It's amazing.
Yeah, it really is.
And also when we're dealing with the mind, we're going into our thoughts, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, Mercury, and just the monkey mind, just racing thoughts, right?
Yeah.
I went here, I went there, we talked, we chatted, we socialized, we went, books, and information.
Mercury moves very quickly, like around the sun every year.
Hence its speed.
Yeah, like the moon moving the fastest, but then Mercury very, like not far behind that in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And then, Mercury retrogrades and...
Air sign as well too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we got some Venus, the sensual Venus.
So there's only, in like traditional kind of astrology, there's only two feminine aspects, and that is the moon, which represents the motherly aspect of the woman, and then Venus, which is more like the friend or the lover.
Yeah.
Okay, it's actually really limited, and that's where there's asteroids that fill in the blanks of kind of like unrecognized, dimensions of a woman.
Yeah, the divine feminine kind of scattered between all of the asteroids to pick up all the pieces.
Exactly.
If it was all there, would it really be fun anyways?
Yeah.
This is part of the journey.
Yeah, exactly. All this discovering. So Venus is this element of the feminine that we all have, okay? So everybody has a Venus in their chart, that is very much about values and relationships and finances, money. It's about beauty and creating beauty. It's about forming a relationship with oneself. Venus is also has double rulership with Taurus and Libra.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like this evolved nature that happens like when Venus is ruling Taurus. It's about teaching you how to value yourself and how to develop a relationship with yourself and how to learn how to take care of yourself. There's an element of self-sufficiency. But then when Venus moves into Libra, it becomes about understanding others and how to relate with others. So after you've created this stabilized identity, then you can relate to people.
It's like you're taking it's also about material possessions in a way, but also your resources that you have. Like you want to build a house, you got to put all the elements together to have all the pieces to do that.
Yeah.
Whether you're using wood or bamboo, it doesn't matter. You need the nails, you need the hammer. So you're putting that together, but then when you mix it with the Libra stuff, it's almost like when you're relating, especially for a Tauran, then you'd come in and it'd be like, but they have that piece of the puzzle. Well, they do the carpentry, but I'm really good at the plumbing. And you can start to link those together, right?
Exactly.
Because it is a collective affair, no matter how solo we go.
Yeah.
There's collective on some level of your path.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, different kind of relating in relationships than what we were speaking about with Gemini and Mercury. Even though, like, Venus rules Libra, which is an air sign. So there's, and all air signs have an element of relationship, but also detachment. So, but at the same point, Venus does really represent this element of relating, and forming relationships. But primarily and first of all with yourself, and then with others, and then within this relationship, then that's when the skills and the resources are developed in order to create, like stability.
Gotcha. Now the next one is Mars.
Okay.
I got Aries big in my chart. That's
another
my sun
thing
sign.
just to say about Venus in the chart is like, Venus in a woman's chart is that which she will generally embody, but Venus in a man's chart is generally what they will project onto their partner.
Perfect.
Yeah. So then Mars being the masculine, okay, Venus being the feminine aspect of the chart, and then Mars being the masculine. Just to say that, so men generally embody their Mars, but women project their Mars onto their partner. Yeah, exactly. So I feel like what we are evolving into, though, is the ability to integrate both of these within ourselves and to not be projecting.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. You want to come to homeostasis with everything,
exactly, right? Because when we're projecting, then we're not allowing that person to be themselves. We're only witnessing them in this kind of like lens that we're, conditioned to see through.
Yep.
Yeah, but when we integrate these elements within ourselves, then that's when we can allow our beloved to be themselves, because we're owning our own masculine. And so then we can see our, feminine or whatever.
Exactly.
So Mars is very fiery. This is the sacred, divine masculine energy that is just like on fire and super passionate and super motivated and super
launch itself into the unknown, the visionary, the pioneer.
Exactly. Like it's intensity at its best or worse, depending on how it's being enacted. But this is like a planet that gets stuff done.
Yep. Action.
Yeah.
Action is the word.
Totally action oriented.
And in charge of your defenses department.
Yeah. Exactly. Defensive. Yeah. Protective.
It's raw. It's just so, Mars is so raw.
Primal passion.
Primal. I like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's running on the instinct, right?
Yeah.
You just launch yourself into a situation and you're just going to go try it out.
Yeah. Exactly. Without thinking about it, right? That's the thing about instinct, is that it's this other kind of gut feeling.
Yep.
That you just have to respond to in the moment. If you overthink it, then you lose the moment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, it's about response. It is about action. It's not about doing. It's not about contemplating. Yeah, it's about making things happen.
Lots of endurance, and also that general energy to access it, to pull it into the body, to then eventually down the road develop that will to do your action, right? But
And
it's that raw current.
It's also our very like primal sexuality. Yeah, so that you can recognize a lot about yourself through your Mars.
Yeah.
Yeah, and understand how you approach sex and.
And also too, just like it's different where it's placed in the chart, but you think of like Mars in the first house, and I know the sun is your identity too, but like also that first house and Mars being there, it is about your identity as well.
It is.
Discovering who you are for the first time, just as you are, unfiltered, fresh, new, born.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
It's
that is
pretty
fresh
wild.
and new and born.
It's pretty amazing. And what do we have after that?
Then it would be Jupiter.
Ooh, the big guy.
So exactly, Jupiter is the biggest planet in our solar system. About 20 Earths could fit in the planet Jupiter.
Amazing.
It's absolutely gigantic. And so it's, you know, its vibration is so similar to that kind of super expansive, you know, third dimensional, you know, planet itself. Like Jupiter is the teacher, it is the guru. It's where like insights and understandings really, you know, come through life experience. Okay, they don't just come out of nowhere. They come through you adventuring and questing and soul searching and putting yourself, you know, into life, into situations, and learning so much. It can also be, though, like a teacher for you that teaches you much about like a spiritual path.
It's another fire sign too.
Yeah, well, the ruler, the ruler of Gemini is Sagittarius, so yeah.
Jupiter.
Oh.
That's okay.
What did I say?
Gemini.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, that's all good.
The ruler, of Jupiter is Sagittarius.
Exactly. Totally.
Yeah, and so, you know, it is a very fiery energy. Yeah.
Totally. It's also a mix too, because if you look up the makeup of the planet, different dimensions of different viewpoints, I like to mix a whole bunch of them together. It has like a master one, but then it's made of gases too as well. So then you have this airy feel to it, which is just like super huge.
Exactly. That's the feeling I was getting too when we were talking. I was like, but Jupiter
It's
has
so
an
intermixed.
airiness. It does.
And what was it? Cardinal, fixed, mutable? I can't remember. Which one?
Oh, this is mutable.
Mutable. Awesome. So also have those qualities. And then Jupiter, we also have the seeking higher spiritual knowledge, right? Through like a star temple or going to some sort of like institution that's going to create new pathways to higher philosophies for ourselves, right? Traveling, adventure. It is quite a social sign and very easy to relate to as well.
Yeah.
Just very adventurous and fun.
Very adventurous. Yeah, very questing.
Okay, now we got the Time Lord Saturn.
Yeah. Okay. So Saturn is that which brings us the most trials and you know, tribulations, because Saturn really wants for us to develop our character in the third dimension.
Discipline.
This is a very third dimensional vibe. It's really restrictive, but because there is a real need to overcome inner challenges and difficulties. That's, you know, kind of the whole point of Saturn.
Especially if you look where it's been found. So it was found at, like all the planets get found as they get further along, right? So if you found Jupiter first and as a collective in yourself, you're just so expansive and so much is happening. We're just blowing it out of proportion, and in some cases debauchery and just overindulgence. And then Saturn says, look, after all that stuff you've learned, you have it all. Now we're going to tighten the ropes in, and we're going to start to master some of that stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But those inner laws, the justice system, right?
Yeah.
Authority, inner authority.
Yeah, which then turns into inner authority. These things generally are experienced as outer authority, which most people are pushing up against. But it's really then to come into your own experience of being your own authority figure and stepping into positions where you are responsible for
responsibility.
Yeah, for yourself, for your expression, and for some kind of mission that you offer to society. Like it's this, Saturn rules Capricorn, and Capricorn is all about legacy. It's like, what are you creating? What is your lasting legacy? What are you imprinting onto the third dimensional matrix that is something really like profound and impactful?
I think
and
Saturn
has a
is
long-term effect.
Yeah, and also building of the civilization, right?
Yeah.
The slow goat climbing to the top of the mountain, taking its time, right? That's epic. Building these cities, all of these structures, right?
Yeah.
It takes time, it takes effort, and it's everlasting. It's
Yeah.
not literally everlasting, but it's going to
It
outlive
stands the
your
test of time.
current life on this planet for the current amount of time that we're living right now.
Yeah.
But there is a way to live much longer. 1,200 years is the goal we're going for. Okay, what's next? Uranus.
Okay, so Uranus.
Woo!
Uranus and Saturn have an interesting relationship because Saturn is like the last planet that is involved with kind of the third dimensional experience. And Uranus has now moved into cosmic consciousness. So it's like and then Chiron is the bridge between the two.
The astral bridge.
Yeah, exactly. So Uranus is that which now moves us into becoming much more independent and individuated. It's about understanding who you are, generally through a lot of like shock and this pulling away from society and the conditioning that comes through just kind of like conforming.
Independence.
Exactly. Independent thinking, independent action, bright ideas. This is a very electric energy, and there's always like these downloads that come through cosmically.
Through your third eye, which totally goes with Uranus all the way, right?
Exactly. Yeah, this is stepping into a whole new realm. This is connecting to galactic consciousness, and there is a massive transformative effect around, connecting with Uranus, or if you have like during a Uranus opposition, which happens between 40 and 44 for everybody, it's just like there's such an awakening of elements of yourself that you have allowed to go numb.
Of course, Saturn returns at 29. I wanted to flip there. That's a huge, profound one. The other thing is Uranus is flipped on its side and spinning differently, which speaks volumes of being independent and unique.
Rebellious. Well, it is rebellious. That is a word, but I don't want it to come off always as just like exactly.
That's the word you want.
Going against the grain and really honestly expressing oneself completely authentically and not caring anymore about what the response is.
Age of Aquarius is, Uranus is going head on with that one too, and then Pluto moving into Aquarius soon. 225-year build-up.
Exactly.
Okay, we've got to move here. Just got a little bit more time left. So now we got the crown chakra, Neptune, and the metaphysical multidimensional realms of the whole viewpoint from above, the particles, the fractals.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. Neptune is hard to put into words because it is so like metaphysical. It is so multidimensional. It is exactly like what Derek was just saying.
It's mystical to the max.
Yeah, it is where mystical insight and mystical vision exists. And it can also be very confusing.
Illusions.
Because if you're not clear with who you are, right? Because Neptune is another one of these cosmic, like, outer planetary forces. So, there's like, it's pretty, developed, right? If you are not a developed soul, if you haven't taken the time to understand yourself, then Neptunian vibes can be, full of disillusionment.
Exactly. But it also, if you have connections with your spirit guides, you're going into dream space, your
that's where it all exists.
Astral plane, all those
symbols,
things, right?
Dreams, exactly. Yeah, all these things are
getting a metaphysical energy treatment. You go into a multidimensional gong bath. You're accessing Neptune majorly, amongst so much other.
And just using your imagination. Like, just what can you imagine? That is Neptune. And it's dreamy and it's gentle and it is very spiritual.
Yeah, totally. Now the last one is Pluto, and then we'll wrap it up.
So Pluto is, I mean, deep and psychological, emotional. It's buried, it's unconscious with this absolute potential for transformation,
rebirth
at any point. Exactly. So it's a very deep space and a deep process of needing to go into that which is unconscious and that which we're probably deeply avoiding, and then bringing to the surface these new insights and understandings of very layered aspects of what creates our emotional personality. It's very profound.
Scorpio, so rules Scorpio, and you can think also the deep dark secrets that you hold within, you know, the sexual merging of beings, and then the great uprooter. You want to go through that transformation, you can have a sudden blow up change like with Uranus, right? But Pluto says we're going to uproot the core root source, and whether you're going to see it, but whether you choose to do with anything with it is your own choice.
Yeah.
But it's going to rip it to the surface.
It is.
And it's also going to bring newfound ways to rewrite the whole solar system so that we can evolve as a whole package, not as these singular moments that led up through the other planets. Pluto takes the whole picture and moves it forward so that we have an opportunity to expand. It's amazing. So cool. So that's the planetary energies. I mean, there's asteroids out there. There's Eris and Pallas Athena, and there's Chiron, the wounded healer. The list goes on and on.
Yeah.
There's so much we could talk about today. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, it's such an honor.
Yeah, so Haridev calls at Sacred Alchemy Astrology. If you want to get an astrology reading, give her a call. If you need any energetic sessions, I do local or long distance.
Give him a call.
Yeah, multidimensional Reiki. We can do some Theta Wave or some Sacred Heart Tamiana. It's amazing. I'll put both of our links down at the end of the video. And yeah, thank you so much for being here.
You're so welcome.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Aren't the planets so cool and all the energies?
So cool.
It's amazing stuff.
Yeah.
So it's been an amazing broadcast with everybody, and I look forward to talking to you all soon, and stay rad out there, Cosmic, and the whole bit.
Stay rad.
Yeah, and I'll be back with another stellar broadcast sometime in the near future.
Yeah.
All right, take care. Take care, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.